I don't have a cold open this time.
Not me neither. I was just clearing my throat because I'm about to drop some knowledge.
Drop some sick bars of knowledge.
Bars of knowledge, dude. Just friggin'
Let's go, bars.
Yeah. Drop a beat.
Let's lock in, bro.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that means.
So, lock in. For those millennials out there or boomers, stay with me now.
Okay.
Lock in equals in the zone.
Okay. When I thought a lock-in was when you would be locked in a building overnight with your friends in middle school.
Which are the best times.
So fun.
But I don't think people do that, or organizations do that much nowadays, because thinking about it from a younger person's perspective, like, yeah, when we were young, they would lock us in a building overnight at the school, and we would just get to run around. Like, that's creepy.
With minimal supervision.
It was very minimal.
Yeah. And even the supervision we did have, you should question.
Yeah, because most of the time, the parents that were supervising us were just drunk.
That's...
You can't deny the parents and teachers were drinking secretly.
It makes sense now that I think about it. Oh, thank you. Yep, thanks.
Fix your hat.
Thanks. You just gotta fix that. Yep.
Fix your hat.
Yep. Just.
Gotta put that fourth eye open.
Yep. Fourth.
Well, yeah, we already. If you're listening to this, you already have your third eye open. We're working on the fourth.
Now you're working on the fourth.
That's located in the anus.
Oh. It's really not a very useful one at all.
Yeah, it's hard to open, but when it is, it's actually more enjoyable than you think.
Yeah, true. Okay, so, actually, what I was gonna say that I just realized I was gonna open the podcast, but I just realized, like I never considered how much, because you think about it now, right? Like when you think of your teachers as a kid.
Okay, I was like, where are you going?
No, like when you think of your teachers as a kid, you think like, oh, they're just wholesome. They just want to help out. But like I personally know teachers. And I know they're the type to turn up on a Tuesday, right?
Oh, teachers go hard.
Like, they might have been rolling acid during class. When we were watching, like, Planet Earth or whatever.
Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure the teacher was hungover or still on something.
Like, I don't think any of my teachers in high school were that way. My professors, however, in college, one of them straight up just said he was high when it was my theater teacher, so he's like,
theater is...
Guys, I took an edible right before this class, so we're just going to do some improv. I was like, fuck yes.
Yeah. Dude, and I bet for him, that was like the best day too, because everyone's improvising.
We all got great grades.
Yeah, and he's just like so stoked about it.
Everything, he's just like,
that was so funny, bro!
But like, because like when you're in like elementary school, like you think, like, I was one of those kids like, yeah, the teachers live at the school. What's the big, this is their home.
Right.
This is their natural habitat.
Yeah, you wouldn't see them elsewhere. But yeah, the elementary school teachers,
like they wrote a book about it.
Had much more reason to be drinking on a weekday, I think.
Because we're all little shits.
We were terrible. I didn't personally, but classes I've been in have made teachers cry, especially substitutes. If you're a substitute teacher out there, good on you.
I was in that class that day.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking. Well, I'll bleep her name, but
yep,
I was there that day.
Yeah,
I was there when she made her cry.
It was actually your fault if you remember.
Oh God, I blocked it out the trauma.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No, I remember sitting there just like laughing at first, and then
like, I was like, oh dear. Well, but she had completely lost control of the class. Like, it was like, there was no rhyme or reason at all, and she was like trying to teach a lesson and just couldn't. And I'm like,
well, like,
if I were you, I'd probably have a drink or two after.
This was ninth grade, by the way, and it was an English class, and she was known to be a very just like, she wasn't mean, but she was just very strict.
Yeah.
Which was fine. And looking back, like, yeah, we were total assholes to her, but like, we did not respect anything, or they did not. It wasn't me, but like, they did not respect her at all, because we all thought she was mean for giving homework and doing a lot of stuff.
We were too busy
that's
trying
not
to.
Her fault.
We were too busy talking about video ideas.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah.
I did not do that.
We apologize.
I'm not going to say your name, but
you already did.
Well.
You're gonna have to remember to bleep that. Don't forget.
I also had a huge crush on your daughter.
True, you did.
I did, and I knew she liked me, and I never went for it.
Yeah,
and I regret that.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
That's okay. At least you only have yourself to blame.
Wow, thank you.
Because, because we're going to do this again. There was a girl who told you she liked me, and you never said a dang thing about it.
What girl was this?
You don't remember? Well,
No.
we're going to have to bleep a lot of names. You don't remember? You told me about...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Dude, I was hung up on her for years, man.
Dude, Jordan was like the farthest thing from my mind at the time.
I know. I'm just saying.
Like, I knew that everybody liked her, but I was just like, in my brain, I always thought it was like, yeah, she's one of the bros.
I mean, she was just super cool.
Yeah, but I didn't, at the time, I wanted like, I was an asshole as a teenager, so I was like, I want a girl. But so like seeing a girl that like was into the same stuff I was into was like, yeah, man, she's like one of the dudes.
You're like, oh, gross.
I'm
You're
like,
into all my same
girls are
things.
icky.
We have like so many shared interests. That's disgusting.
Supposed to be like pink in dresses and like doing your nails. So you
I
shouldn't
should
be
have
into video
nothing
games.
in common with you for you to be at all interesting to me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was a dick.
Yeah, it's fine. We grew, and we'll bleep a lot of names. So let's welcome everybody to the Zeitgeist podcast.
How you
my name
doing?
is Greg,
My name is Nick.
and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics that is one of the founding tenets of this podcast. If it's not about aliens and it's not about other timelines, it's about the U.S. government.
Love them.
And yeah, we're gonna throw it back to the 1960s again. What a time, the 1960s.
I remember it fondly.
If you remember,
Sitting comfortably in my dad's balls.
I mean, no, I don't think you were, because I think the sperm cycle is fairly regularly. So
Well,
it's-
also in the 60s, my dad maximum in 1969 would have been 9.
okay,
He was born in 1960.
yeah,
so
fair.
There was no sperm there yet.
No. Anyway, so in the 1960s, there was a little thing called the Cold War.
Very chilly.
Yeah, really, really cold. It was Soviet Union and the U.S. were pretty much in an arms race, and they were trying to collect as much nuclear material as possible so that if the time came, they could blow the entire planet to smithereens.
Before you go on, I'm going to add a tangent that I'm probably going to talk about this next. You know what? I'll save it.
No, go ahead, please. Better early than later.
There's a new conspiracy theory that all of the nuclear things, like weapons, are all fake. None of them exist.
Kind of like the space race theory that we didn't actually go to the moon.
Yeah. Like it's all fake just to scare the other countries. That's pretty
Could
much
be.
all the whole thing. So.
Could be. If we didn't actually drop a couple, I would say like we never even got that
Well, those
far,
are the
but-
only real ones. Like
Yeah.
that's as far as it got, and then after that, no one's developed any. But we say we are, and so is every other country, just to scare every other country. Say like, oh, we've got more than you, and then we're like, oh, well, we made more. Like, well, no, we made more.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to buy into that only because
I
of
don't
how
buy
much
it.
testing there is. Like, there's places in the world that like are bombed a lot just to test these things.
Yeah, and I don't buy it either.
Yeah, and they're pretty messed up. But one thing that was a problem for the United States during the Cold War was that a neighboring country was holding a lot of the Soviets' nuclear material, weapons.
Canada.
Canada. No, it does start with a C though. It's Cuba.
Ah.
And in Cuba, the Soviets and their leader, the Cuban leader, Fidel Castro, got along swimmingly. And the U.S. didn't like that. So what did they do? They decided, we got to take this guy out, but we have to be covert. Because if we go in there guns blazing, right, then the Soviets are going to just blow us up. And we're going to have to blow them up, and then the whole world will fall to pieces. So we're not going to do that. But subtly, secretly, CIA style, literally CIA, we can find a way to take out the Cuban leader, either by killing him or by unseating him from his place of power. So they tried a lot of different things. Looney Tunes style stuff that I'm going to get into right now. One of the earlier attempts in 1960 was that they planned to sabotage, and I'm not making this up, planned to sabotage one of his speeches by spraying the studio where he broadcast from, similar to our studio here, with a chemical that is similar to LSD. I don't know what chemical, but essentially they were hoping he would start delivering a speech from his studio and he would just start tripping.
So he was just on the Joe Rogan podcast.
He was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Just tripping
yeah.
LSD.
But it would have been a big deal in 1960, which, you know, like, that's back then it was like, oh, you're doing LSD, like you're the scum of the earth or whatever. I don't even know if that mattered as much in
They
Cuba.
probably did LSD because they just did MK Ultra. Like, we got this LSD. We got to use it.
They got
We
tons
gotta
of it
use
left
this
over.
stuff.
Yeah, true. So they also spiked his cigars with a chemical to disorient him, hoping he would smoke one before delivering a speech.
See, I remember that one you said last time we recorded because all I can picture is him smoking the cigar and it exploding like a Looney Tunes cartoon,
Yeah.
him getting all like charcoal all over, and he's just like, and he's just like, like all like that,
Yeah.
and then like someone comes like, sir, what happened? He's like, just like cleaning them up and just like the next scene transition.
Yeah, and they did do that.
wah,
They did,
wah,
do-
wah,
or they did
wah,
something very
wah.
similar to that because he's Cuban. He smokes a lot of cigars, right?
Cuban cigars.
And anyway, the LSD substance, they didn't do it because it was too unstable. He didn't
Really?
actually end up smoking the cigars, right? And another one that they tried, these are all the early attempts, right? These were like, we're not going to kill him, but like, we're going to get people not to like him.
I can only imagine the cigar just had like a giant grenade taped to the front of it or something. It's like,
Right.
I don't know about that one.
It's like, have a new cigar, and you open it up, it's a box of TNT. It's like, here, I'll light it for you.
Like, this is a funny cigar.
This is a weird cigar. Yeah.
It says Acme on it.
It's just a stick of dynamite and just.
This is a funny candle. It's, it's
weird.
hissing.
Yeah, it's the old happy birthday, right? They bring a cake out and they light the stick of dynamite. It's basically that. Another one, they tried to dust thallium salt in his shoes.
What is that?
Thallium salt would have made his beard fall out. And they thought, these people will never listen to a man without a beard, such as Castro's. Didn't
What?
work.
What? That's so stupid.
It's so dumb.
But why his shoes?
Because he wouldn't notice.
How would that only make his beard hair fall out?
Uh,
How is thallium on your shoes designed to only make your beard hair fall off? That is
maybe it
so
was all
weird.
of his hair. I don't know. I mean, a modern day attempt at that would be like, like putting Nair in his shampoo, right?
Like in his beard oil container.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be like,
So we're gonna
weird.
talk about a few of these things, right? Because
All right.
because these are things that they attempted before we get into what they ended up planning on. That I think we should all know about and be deeply concerned about. But these are fun. We're going to go through some of these first. So a couple of these are related to Castro's love for scuba diving. He's a big
Oh.
scuba diver, that one.
Cool.
Loved being under the ocean. He was under the sea. He loved it.
darling, it's better.
So what they did, one of the things they did, was contaminate one of his diving suits with a fungus. This fungus was designed to produce a chronic and debilitating skin disease.
Okay.
They wanted to give him what's that called where all the commercials are with I've got moderate to severe.
Oh, eczema?
Yeah, eczema. Or there was another one too. It wasn't just eczema,
Mesothelioma?
something like that. But they're basically trying to give him that,
That's
right?
asbestos poisoning.
Is it?
Yeah, my
Maybe they put asbestos in there. I don't know.
fun fact, my extended family, my great uncle actually did die of asbestos exposure while he worked in a factory late in his life, and his family was able to file a claim and got millions of dollars in settlement, and now have a giant house on Lake Michigan.
Wow.
So we go there for family reunions. It's very nice.
But I'm sure they would have preferred if he didn't die from asbestos poisoning.
He died in like his 80s though, so he lived a life.
I mean,
and they still got us.
I might go work in an asbestos factory and provide for my family for
Asbestos
future,
factory.
for future generations.
Deliberately a asbestos factory. They don't even hide the fact.
Yeah.
We make asbestos.
We make asbestos, and you go in unprotected, and I'm like, sold.
like, and
My
when
children
you
will
die,
want for nothing.
your family will be covered, but you gotta die.
You got to die as quickly as possible. And you know what?
Like, say no more.
I would have done that anyway. No, so
would
back,
be fun.
back to
Anyway.
the diving suit. Well, that does remind me of a bit that I'm sure is going to be one of the TikTok bits. But it was about the guy with the dress on Minispiracies, how he threw his girl. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine throwing somebody out of a second story window. And you were like, I mean, I'd throw myself out of a second story window. Oh, such
In a
great
heartbeat.
bit. In a heartbeat. I'd do that today. Anyway.
How's the dress look? Great, babe.
Yeah. So, back to the diving suit. They want to do that, and they also want to do, in fact, the breathing apparatus, which hopefully was going to get the fungus in his lungs and cause a lot of problems. He wouldn't be a fit leader. The guy that was supposed to give him the suit just didn't give him the suit. Yeah.
Like, did you give him the suit? Oh, I forgot. Like,
Yeah.
what the?
No, he just decided against it. I don't know. Most of these failed attempts were that people who were supposed to do something just didn't. It's weird. I don't know why.
I saw a video of these two teenagers trying to break into like a convenience store, and they had like bandanas on, and they're like, "All right, let's do this." They had a big rock, like, "All right, we're like, fuck it, we're already here. Let's break the window." And like they're talking themselves up. That's the first time they've clearly tried to break into a store, so they throw the rock at the window, and it just bounces off the glass, and it lands in front of them. They're like, "Nope, we're not going out for this." And they just walk away like, "We're going home.
We're not hardened criminals. We can't do this.
And the owner posted it, and they're like, they scratched my window, but they tried.
They learned a lesson.
They learned their lesson.
That's fine. So speaking of scuba diving, which he loved to do, this one's real Looney Tunes. In 1963, they thought they could use. I'm not even making. I wish I was making this up. They thought they could use a fake seashell, okay, and paint it with exotic colors and make it very interesting, so that while Fidel Castro is scuba diving and swimming along, he'd be like, "Wow, look at that shell! I'm going to look at it really closely." And when he gets close enough, the explosives hidden inside could be triggered and blow him up. That was their plan.
I have a plan. Shoot him with a gun.
Well, but see, they couldn't be that brazen about it, right? Because they would all know, oh, the U.S. did this. Soviets are like, right? Like, if we would have started World War III.
Okay, but the exploding seashell was inconspicuous?
Anybody could have put that there. Who said it doesn't say made in the USA on it? Oh, it does? Oh, crap. That was a bad idea. But you just imagine, like, how would they remote detonate it as soon as he gets close to it? So they must have had a couple other scuba divers out there just hiding behind a rock. With a plunger,
with
right?
The big plunger.
And he's just peeking around the side, Come on. Is it there yet? Is it there yet? Come on, a little closer, a little closer.
Like he can see the wire.
And he's just, and he's just like, oh, we got to lure him somehow. And so they're like, caw, caw, right? But they're scuba diving, so it's right?
And they shine a light, and he's like, ooh, shiny.
Oh, let me look at that.
Like, well, what are you going to use as a distraction? Okay, remember that seashell your daughter painted in her first grade class? Get that.
Perfect.
It's really eye-catching and really bad. He'll be like, wow, this is an ugly seashell.
But he doesn't notice it. Okay, go to plan C. And they have one of the scuba guys dressed as a mermaid, one of the CIA guys, and he just swims along, and he just, it's like combing through his hair, and it's like, come here, big boy. And he comes a little closer, and then... Right, that was the plan.
It turns out that he actually swam up behind them and put the seashell behind the other scuba divers,
Roadrunner style.
Yeah, and then they're all just like somehow covered in soot underwater, and it just like does like the vignette zoom out.
Oh my gosh!
Wah, wah, wah.
Another thing that they did, moving to another one, they enlisted the help of the mafia to try and murder Fidel Castro on their behalf.
Which mafia? Like a bippity boppity mafia, or like.
From the Chicago mob and the same mob of the Cuban operation.
That's
so
Italian,
yeah. The mobster was Sam Giancana. It's an Italian name.
Hey, I'm Sam Giancana.
Yeah.
And this is Tutto Tony.
Right. And the other guy was Santos Traficant, which is from the Cuban mob or the Cuban division of it. Both of them were on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, by the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. And so
Top 10.
The idea was that they would hire these two middlemen, right? These mobsters, to sneak in and murder Fidel Castro for a fee. They're willing to pay at least $150,000, which is $1.2 million in today's money.
That ain't bad.
Not bad. And they suggested that they use poison pills because it was more reliable than guns. So the CIA provided these pills free of charge because you got to cover for expenses for the mob, right?
Yeah.
You can't expect them to pay for their own poison pills.
Yeah, flight, travel.
Yeah, so they give them
Cyanide
6 pills of high lethal content. To an official who had access to Castro, right? The mobsters were supposed to go in and find a way to sneak that in there and get Castro to take it. Apparently, after a few unsuccessful attempts, which they must have actually tried this, the Cuban mobster got cold feet and was like, "This isn't working." Took the money and ran.
I thought you were gonna say he took the pills himself.
No. But then, of course, that wasn't where they were gonna leave it. So they were like, "Let's take a page out of." James Bond.
Wait. They paid him beforehand?
I'm assuming.
That's so stupid.
Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. I don't have all the details. It's possible they never actually paid him until the job was done.
Okay.
But either way, they didn't do the job.
Because, I would be scared if, like, the government was like, hey, do this, kill this guy, and we'll pay you. But at the same time, I'd feel like they double-cross me and just arrest me because I'm also on the FBI's most wanted list. So they could probably just get me to do that, promise me all this money and freedom, and then just arrest me at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're the government. They can just do that.
They could. They probably would have, actually.
Like, let's just get this guy off the street.
Mobsters probably did the right thing. But the funny thing is that, like, this is what's hilarious to me. They were on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, right? And yet the CIA was able to easily track them down and make them this offer. It's not like they couldn't find them. They were like, oh, we know where these guys are. We're just not going to arrest them yet.
Controlled chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Illuminati, shadow government.
It's curious, isn't it?
CIA, more like ICAU. ICAU.
Yeah, CAU. Anyway, the next thing. It's
all awesome. Because it's awesome.
Because it's awesome. That's why that's their slogan, like CIA. Why? Because it's awesome. Anyway, another one. They took a page right out of James Bond, right? So they used a hypodermic needle concealed in a pen Very clever, this one. The needle would be so fine that anybody who clicks the pen wouldn't actually even notice that they were
immediately
injected.
horny. So fine.
So, what?
This is fine ass pen.
I mean,
click it.
You look
baby.
at the pen and you just start sweating and you're like, but I shouldn't. But I must.
I have to fuck this pen.
I can't control it. Ah!
And they just inject themselves and die.
And then they just die. So anyway, the pen was rigged to inject poison that basically a highly placed Cuban official who was in discussions with CIA was supposed to hand him a pen that would have this needle. And I mean, it would basically be like this. Like Castro is like, they would probably take all the pens off his desk, right? And Castro's got to sign something because he signs documents. He was the president, dictator of a country. So like he's like, oh, my pens go. I can't find my pens. Cuban official's supposed to go, here, sir, my special pen. And he would go, thank you. You got a promotion.
And you also have a massive erection.
Yeah. So curious. So curious that you have such a large erection. Please turn the other direction with your erection so that I can focus on signing my papers, please. It's very distracting.
I need to stop the insurrection. There's an insurrection, so turn the other direction with your erection.
You're knocking things off my desk. Please, just step back a few paces.
Wait, Drake?
Just hands the pen. You're poking me in the ear. Can you back off, please? Oh, jeez. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so this highly placed official, who may or may not have had an erection, we don't know, was supposed to give him this pen, but he apparently complained that the CIA surely could come up with something a little bit more sophisticated than this pen. And he also had bad timing. He was offered the pen on November 22nd of 1963, which was the date of John F. Kennedy's assassination. So the agency was like, we shouldn't do this at the same time that Kennedy was just assassinated. That's too suspicious. We got to assassinate him on a different day. So they pulled back.
I mean, yeah.
And they never took the pen to Cuba.
Where is it now? Living,
it's
making some man
got it.
very happy.
The CIA's got it. And then one of probably my favorite James Bond style attempt was actually one of the earlier attempts. It was late 1959. They contracted a spy, a femme fatale, a woman who was a lover of Fidel Castro. I know, which is crazy. Her name was Martita Lorenz. And she was recruited as an agent, double agent of the CIA, tasked with assassinating him. So she was given 2 botulism toxin pills that she was supposed to drop into his drink. And just one would kill him in 30 seconds, apparently. But basically, she was like, I don't know, but I love him. But I need to kill him. The government wants me to. But also...
Wait, so was she already involved with Castro?
Yes.
Oh, so they approached her after she was already...
and they got to talking. Exactly.
Well, of course she got it. She was actually in love with the guy. It would have been difficult.
Or at least she was afraid to, like,
say
mess
no.
it up, you know?
Or even just say no to the American government.
Yeah,
because like, if you
also.
say no, like, maybe they'll kill me.
Yeah. So apparently... She backed out. She didn't actually do it. But even if she had wanted to kill him, she messed it up because she stashed those pills in a cold cream jar, like face cream, which made them gunky and unusable. Had she dropped them in a drink, it wouldn't have worked.
What?
Yeah, I know.
So
she wasn't a very good agent.
I also realized you made the joke about a girl dressing up like a mermaid. Like,
oh, yeah.
So they actually did that.
But they did that first. Yeah.
I know, but like this is like legit. Like they actually tried like get the pretty girl to
They
kill
literally
him
did that. They literally did that. So her story goes, she did an interview in 1993 telling this story with Vanity
She's
Fair.
still alive?
She was in
Or like
1993.
she wasn't taken out?
No, almost though. Apparently, according to her story, he leaned over, pulled out a .45, and handed it to her. He didn't even flinch. He said, you can't kill me. Nobody can kill me. Oh. And then he smiled and chewed on a cigar. Not the exploding cigar, but a cigar.
I'll say this right now. That's kind of hot.
And actually, the rest of the sentence, I felt deflated. He was so sure of me. He just grabbed me. We made love.
What a story. That's true love.
That's
right
actually
there.
how it went. Yeah.
Honestly, if this was like a Twilight movie,
it's
that
50 Shades of Grey, basically.
That would have popped.
Dude,
off.
imagine Fidel Castro starring in 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Castro?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my! I just thought of something. This is totally different. If they really wanted to go for artistic or a pun, they got to castrate Castro.
Oh, that would be
perfect.
Good. They should have tried to castrate him. They didn't try that at all.
They castrate Castro because of the insurrection with the erection in a different direction.
Exactly.
All comes full circle.
So then the last one was the exploding cigar, probably the most famous of these attempts on Castro's life. And it's not the last one that they tried. This was actually in 1960, so just after the woman with the pills didn't do it, and she just went and made love with him instead.
Good for you.
So the
You get that
cigars
nut.
were laced with the same botulism toxin that they tried to use in the pills, but it was strong enough to kill anybody who put it in their mouth. They were delivered to an unidentified person in 1961. It's unclear what happened to them after that. Essentially, the CIA has no idea where these botulism cigars went.
Wonderful.
Yep.
I bet somebody got one and is just dead.
Could have. And it could have been a story, and we would never know the
And
difference.
someone probably had that exploding cigar, and they're like,
Yep.
we're told Dad to keep smoking. To
Yep.
keep smoking.
Yeah, we told him to keep smoking.
Keep smoking.
Keep smoking.
Sorry, I like smoking cigars. Why don't you smoke the whole pack?
Here you go. Let me see if I can throw it in your mouth. Here. So anyway, this is where we get to the serious part. All that was fun.
Oh.
It was fun, right? They tried to kill Castro a bunch of different ways between 1959 and 1963. None of them worked. So, what do? They think, if we can't kill him covertly, we can at least make it so that we can go to war openly without invoking the ire of the Soviet Union and the world at large.
America loves its war.
Enter Operation Northwoods.
It's pissing me off.
So we did this episode once before, right? We recorded it. We lost
and
the
I already
footage,
knew
so-
about this.
So you knew about it. Those
Not
of you
all
who don't know, it's a false flag operation. Nick, would you like to define false flag for us?
Yes. The U.S. government has a few of these under their belt, is where they basically stage a fake attack from a country. Like, for example, I don't know, say Poland comes over and attacks us, but they didn't actually do it. America just made it look like Poland attacked us, so we have an excuse to retaliate.
Yep, basically that. So Operation Northwoods was that, but for Cuba.
For Cuba.
So because they really wanted to kill Fidel Castro, right? They tried a bunch of times. He took power in 1959. They almost immediately started trying to kill him. They failed a bunch of times. And so then they created a new proposition, the CIA did. And it proposed creating public support for a war against Cuba by blaming the Cuban government for a terrorist act that would be perpetrated by the U.S. government. Who else? So to this end, they recommended hijackings, bombings, introduction of false evidence that would implicate the Cuban government. The report stated the desired result from the execution of this plan would be to place the United States in an apparent position of suffering defensible grievances from a rash and irresponsible government of Cuba, and to develop an international image of a Cuban threat to peace in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah. You know what another one is also a big conspiracy about that? Like about false flags? Mm-hmm. 9/11.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go into that
9/11
one,
was an inside job.
but that is also a theory.
I'll leave it at that. You can discuss in the comments.
All I will say is that the government has done this and many other false flag operations, or at least proposed them, and it's not unusual. The CIA was pretty quick to jump to this. I'll just say that. So many other proposals were included as well. They include real or simulated actions against various U.S. military and civilian targets. The operation recommended developing a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington, which involved the bombing of civilian targets, which was to be blamed on the Cuban government, paint a false image of Fidel Castro, and misinform the American public. They're real good about that.
Oh, they're so good at that.
They're the best.
Misinformation, we gotcha. Or we don't.
Yeah, or we don't.
You'll never know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's like the IRS. How much do I owe in taxes? I don't know. Aren't you going to tell me? No. But if you get it wrong, we will kill you.
Yeah, that's basically right. Basically right. Or at least we'll make it very, very hard for you to live.
Yeah.
One or the other. So this is basically the 4 steps of the plan, right? So they wanted, well, I mean, I'll get to the 4 steps, but there were several steps that were supposed to blame the hostilities on Cuba, especially ones carried out against its military base at Guantanamo. And they would be followed by executing offensive operations there against tactical Cuban civilian targets and military emplacements.
Civilian targets?
Oh, yeah. So in response...
I mean, America kills their own people.
The idea
anyway, so.
was that we were going to kill some of our own civilians and then say Cuba
There it
killed
is.
them. And then we go kill some Cuban civilians, eventually getting to the point where we can kill Fidel Castro, shut the whole thing down,
See, that's
and then
what
probably steal the weapons that were stored there from the Soviet Union.
That's what pisses me off. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, we got to kill our own people first
Yeah.
to prevent more killing of our own people. Like, what the...
So here's the steps. If you ever want to do a false flag operation, this is how the CIA recommends doing it. Step 1. Since it would seem desirable to use legitimate provocation as the base for U.S. military intervention in Cuba, or insert country here, a cover and deception plan to include requisite preliminary actions such as had been developed in response to Task 33C, have to look that up later, could be executed as an initial effort to provoke Cuban reactions. Harassment plus deceptive actions to convince the Cubans of imminent invasion would be emphasized. Our military posture throughout the execution of this plan will allow a rapid change from exercise to intervention if Cuban response justifies. Step 2. A series of well-coordinated incidents will be planned to take place in and around Guantanamo and give genuine appearance of being done by hostile Cuban forces. Step 3. United States would respond by executing offensive operations to secure water and power supplies, destroying artillery and mortar emplacements which threaten the base. Step 4. Commence large-scale United States military operations. Step 5. Profit. So,
I was about to make that joke. Nice.
Well, that's basically what they were going to do, right?
So, I don't know. I have heard that, because you mentioned that this happened, they were planning this around the time JFK was assassinated. There are connections that the assassination of JFK was meant to be the catalyst for the invasion of Cuba. I have heard that was a conspiracy.
That is still a conspiracy. That's
Yes.
a big one. That's a big one, actually. If you go around downtown Dallas in the Dealey Plaza area, you'll find people standing on the side, like roadside, with flyers saying Kennedy was assassinated on purpose.
Yeah, we live in the Dallas area, so we go by that all the time. Honestly, it's not that interesting to go to.
It is if you don't. I mean, if you don't live here, it's interesting.
I guess so, but it's just like a patch of grass.
Yeah,
there's not really anything there,
and you can't really go into the building. So
yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
like, hey, you see that building up there?
Yeah, that's where it
guy
happened.
Shot a guy from up there.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that happened. Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, that happens like everywhere.
But there are always people there taking it very seriously.
Oh yeah,
right?
I mean, it was a big deal. It's just like it's like if you live in Washington D.C., you don't go to the monuments all the time.
Right.
Like, you get tired of it.
So here were some of their ideas that they were just kicking around. You know, just spitballing here, right? Let's see how we did this. For example, remote control of a civilian aircraft, which would secretly be repainted as a U.S. Air Force plane. Fun. A fabricated shoot down of a U.S. Air Force fighter aircraft off the coast of Cuba. Possible assassination of Cuban immigrants.
Possible
assassination. I don't know.
I said if.
And then some of the worst ones. Sinking boats of Cuban refugees on the high seas.
What the hell, man? Refugees?
Because people are trying to escape Cuba. If you kill them first, you can say Cuba did it because Cuba would have good reason to kill those people. So that's it. That's the plan. Blowing up a U.S. ship. Cool. And orchestrating terrorism in U.S. cities.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like the Purge.
Now, remember when I said that's not the only false flag operation that the U.S. would do?
Oh, yeah.
There are other proposals that are also related to Cuba, such as Operation Mongoose.
Ah.
That was a Department of Defense.
Department of Defense proposal for actions to be taken against the Cuban regime of Fidel Castro. Very similar things create an incident which has the appearance of an attack on U.S. facilities in Cuba, thus providing an excuse for U.S. military to overthrow the current government of Cuba. It also includes Operation Dirty Trick. It's literally called Operation Dirty Trick. This is what they plan to do. Operation We're Lying.
So 1960s was also a space race. Arms race, space race, all happening between us and the Soviet Union,
If you
right?
believe we actually went to the moon.
Well, they hadn't gotten to the moon yet. This is 1962. So nobody made it yet anyway. But they had gone to space. In
Have they? All right, anyway.
I don't know, dude. I ain't been there.
I'm not going to cover that.
Well, we just did the aliens thing, so I guess kind of.
Yeah.
We've all, like, some part of us has been in space.
Technically, we all are in space. The Earth is in space.
We're the aliens.
But yeah, if you've watched that episode about the meteor.
Yeah. And the reptilians. We didn't even talk about the reptilians.
No, we'll get
That's
there.
a future episode. Anyway.
Reptilians are a big deal.
Yeah. So anyway, related to space. In 1962, there was a Mercury launch that was supposed to be crewed by many astronauts, including John Glenn. They said, this is Operation Dirty Trick, before they launched, if that space flight fails, if it explodes, if it crashes or whatever, then the U.S. would provide irrevocable proof that should the Mercury manned orbit flight fail, the fault lies with the communists in Cuba. This would be accomplished by manufacturing various pieces of evidence which would provide or prove electronic interference on the part of the Cubans. So even something that had nothing to do with them. Hey, it went off, by the way, it went off fine. John Glenn was okay. But if it had failed, we would have used that too.
And then did the U.S. government predict that Challenger explosion?
Well, they didn't actually use that for anything. Which
They could have, because he was still
You
alive.
should never waste a good tragedy, though, right? That's the government motto. There's a tragedy, we gotta capitalize on
I
this.
still love the fact that there is a universe where Big Bird actually did get on that.
Oh wow, you're right. Yeah,
Because remember, he was like, if that teacher didn't get on, they were going to send
they were
Big
gonna
Bird.
send Big Bird. Yeah.
And he
Wow.
would have canonically died.
Yeah.
Because he would have gone up as the character
It would have
Big
been
Bird.
Big Bird. They couldn't just bring Big Bird back. Everybody would have seen Big Bird die in space.
Yeah, he's back on Sesame Street. Big Bird can't die.
Or like he's back, but like, he's like a little beat up. He's missing feathers and stuff. Like,
It was a crazy
yeah,
day.
wow.
Luckily, I can fly.
I made it. I'm actually superhuman. I don't know how Big Bird sounds. It's been a long time since
Kind
I've
of
heard.
like that.
Is
It's
he?
like, is that blood? Yeah, that's from Stephanie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was dark.
And
was
do you
dark.
remember, like, everyone talks about the Challenger explosion, but don't you remember, like, we were alive for that one shuttle that came, like, on re-entry exploded? The Discovery?
Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
you remember? Like, I feel like nobody remembers that.
Well, that one wasn't televised. I think that's the difference. Like the launch,
okay.
launch was televised. I don't think the reentry was televised.
No, because I remember seeing the Discovery launch, but I remember hearing that when it on re-entry, one of the panels broke off and the whole thing just went up.
I vaguely remember that. I need to look more into that because I don't know why.
I remember
remember
it
it.
very vividly when it happened.
But you've got that thing. You got that superpower.
I do have that thing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember exactly where I was on 9/11.
Well, sure.
Side tangent. I was in the first grade, so we all got sent home from school early. But that same day, we had an assembly because it was like the cookie dough selling assembly that they have every year.
What timing?
Like, so they sit you down, like, oh, here's all the cool prizes. Here's the Lego. Like, if you sell enough cookie dough, you can get like
Yeah.
a little scooter that breaks when you use it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna sell so much fucking cookie dough this
Let's
year.
go.
And I got home, I was like,
So
Mom,
hyped.
I was like, Mom, we need to sell cookie dough now. And they're both in front of the TV, like bawling their eyes out. I'm like,
Yeah.
Mom, let's go. And she's like, then she turns to me and goes, Nick, nobody wants to buy cookie dough today.
She's right.
I mean, yeah, but at the time I was pissed for days. I was like, I'm gonna lose.
I had a different experience because I was also in class, different school. But at our school, they were like, I guess they didn't really believe in like we should protect the children, from these things. Like their little eyes and ears can't handle it. They were like, hey guys, we're gonna stop class. Something's going on. We're gonna wheel in a TV here. They wheeled it in.
I'm sorry, what?
And yeah, no, they literally wheeled in one of those, like on the carts. It was the big like TVs that we used to have. Wheeled that in, turned it on, and we're watching live coverage and watched the second tower fall as a classroom of children. We were like
What?
7 or 8 or however old we were. And and that's how I remember it. It's pretty messed up.
I went home and was just mad about cookie dough and then played Nintendo.
No, I was very aware of what was going on. You kids are so sheltered today.
I'm so
Actually,
sorry.
kids today are not so sheltered. Kids know more than they should.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, back to the false flag operations. And I'm fine. I turned out okay, And we haven't had another one since.
I'm
so,
fine.
Yeah. That single tear rolls down my cheek.
Why are we so paranoid? We weren't sheltered. We know what's going on.
Yeah. So basically, because of some of these false flag operations, General Lemnitzer lost his job as the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. By the way, I should say John F. Kennedy did not sign off on any of these, but maybe any other president would have. I don't know.
He just
It could have
weekend at Bernie's the body. Like,
Yeah.
sign this,
come
Mr.
on.
President.
That's messed up. But anyway, even after the guy who first put these together was fired as the chairman, the Joint Chiefs still planned false flag pretext operations at least into 1963. A different Department of Defense policy paper created in 1963 discussed a plan to make it appear that Cuba had attacked a member of the Organization of American States so that the United States could retaliate. They say one of the scenarios would be that a Cuban attack on the OAS member an OAS member could be set up, and the attacked state could be urged to take measures of self-defense and fight with Cuba, and then request assistance from the U.S., even though it would be the U.S. doing it the whole time. They said that there was confidence that they could almost certainly obtain the necessary two-thirds support among OAS members for collective action against Cuba. Who were they planning to attack? Probably Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago, since both are members of the British Commonwealth at the time. Yep.
We're idiots.
Yep. So any of the contrived situations described above are inherently extremely risky to our democratic system in which security can be maintained after the fact with great difficulty. If the decision should be made to set up a contrived situation, it should be one which participation by U.S. personnel is limited only to the most highly trusted covert personnel. This suggests the infeasibility of use of military units for any aspect of a contrived situation. So people were like, this is a bad idea. We probably shouldn't let anybody find out about this. And yet here we are on our podcast reading these exact words that were written in that document. Isn't that great? Isn't that fun? They also suggested paying a person in Castro's government to stage a false flag against the United States. Basically, actually get somebody in Cuba to do it, but pay them to do it.
And then they'll just run away with the money again.
Yeah, they could have. They could have. So anyway, that is multiple operations, all kind of tied to Operation Northwoods. And I really want you guys to just think, just for a moment, about not specifically the Cold War, but any number of times that there's been something a little bit sus, to borrow a word, right, from
a little
the
bit
younger generations. Excuse me. Where it's like, hey, like this will justify just about anything, right? And 9/11 could be an example of that. I don't know. I'm not personally of any opinion on that. I haven't done any research. But it is curious that false flag operations have been around for a long time. There were false flags before 1960 as well. Probably false flags after 1960. Maybe some today. Maybe all of us will be killed by our own government just to justify going to war with another country who did not actually provoke us in any way.
COVID-19?
COVID-19? Dude, when I found out that was made in a lab, holy crap. My gears turning.
Did you heard about the one in the California lab?
No. What?
There was a Chinese lab in California that was creating new strains of the virus, and it was not contained in any way safely.
And is this related at all to the weather balloon that flew all the way across?
This is like as of like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I did not hear about that.
This is new. Like,
yeah,
some building enforcer building code inspector was slated to do an inspection of the building, and she noticed like this garden hose sticking out of a wall, just like full on like in the wall. She's like, that's not up to code.
And it's just pumping out COVID.
It's pumping out some kind of gas. So they're like, okay, this isn't up to code. So she was like, hey, I'm an officer. I need to check out the building. They let her in, and it was just like this like rickety thrown together lab of like COVID-19 stuff. And
so it was a meth house, but for creating viruses.
Yeah, but like
basically.
they never got any details of like why they were doing it, what the purpose was. They were just, I guess, researching the COVID-19 virus and how it can affect humans. How much more powerful can this virus get? How can we mute? They were like basically making like
Let's
this crazy
push the limits
in California, like in the middle of LA.
And there's no way that was set up without the government's knowledge.
That's what everyone's like. There's no way like the U.S. isn't involved at this point. Like,
that's good. That's good color to add to this. It's because again, we always say the government.
I don't have an opinion on this. It's super new, so I don't want to be controversial or nothing. But like,
we're already getting flagged for false information. We always do.
Yeah,
right?
We do. But
even though we don't claim anything to be factual, except for the stuff that is factual, Operation Northwoods was real. You can find the real documents. Yep. But the stuff that's like kind of out there, we always say, hey, maybe so. Just think about it. Right. Just think about the government and how much it really cares about you individually, regardless of the party system that is currently in power, okay? It doesn't really matter who's in charge. These things happen under both parties, or maybe even a third party if there ever was one, or is one again. There has been in the past. But just think about that. Like the people that are in power, their only job and only goal is to maintain and get more of that power. They really don't care about the people underneath because that's not really their purview, Yeah,
and don't worry. They all will die very soon. They are all very old.
That's true. That's true. And then new people will come in and do the same thing, very much like has been done for all of history.
If you think about it, the forefathers who founded this country, everyone...
I think there were 6 of them, actually.
Haha, I get it.
Then there were more, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it was just a dumb joke.
So if you were to ask a kid, like a 10-year-old, like, who are the founding fathers? Like, a bunch of old guys with white wigs that made the Declaration of Independence or whatever. Mm-hmm. They weren't old. They were like in their 20s.
Really?
Yeah, 20s, 30s.
I guess because powdered wigs were the fashion, so they wanted to look older.
They were the new generation of breaking away from the established norm. They were like, we're done with Daddy Britain. Mm-hmm. We're going to come to this new place, and it's going to be lit. You can do whatever you want. Anyone gets a gun. Yeah. You can worship whoever.
You can have as many slaves as you want to have.
Like, America was founded by a bunch of hippies.
True.
Just saying.
True.
Like, a 20-year-old hippies, and then nowadays you got all these old people like, oh, the founding fathers. But no, the founding fathers would have been like, bro, y'all are fucked up. Like, we even said in the Constitution, like, if these laws don't work, you gotta change them.
Well,
it says that. Change the laws if they don't work for the current time.
Yeah, I'm going to steal this because there was a bit. It was on Last Comic Standing a long time ago. It was a bit that one of the comedians did when people. Anyway, Obama was president at the time. That's relevant. Where people were like, if the founding fathers knew, what was happening in the White House today and blah, 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 like the founding fathers would say this, that, or the other. And he's like, I'm pretty sure if the founding fathers came out today, they'd be like, what's this I hear about women voting? Also, who's that in the White House? Is that one of Thomas Jefferson's kids? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Messed up, but funny. So, I mean, we got to keep in mind that times have changed, right? We can't really place the same emphasis of modern sensibilities on the 1700s or the 1800s, right? Like it was a different world back then. The moral code has shifted considerably. Even in the last 20 years, the moral code's shifted considerably, right? So it's really hard to say what they would or wouldn't have done. But what I can say with almost certainty is the way that things are set up now, it is designed for everybody but those in power to fail. And that's just the way that it is.
I 100% agree.
It's easy. That's what the Anunnakians knew, right?
Yeah.
They knew that we got to keep these guys under control, right? So otherwise, we risk our own power.
Yeah, but they realized they couldn't, so they decided to wipe them out.
Yeah.
They just let that happen.
Peace.
It's like, because these guys might revolt against us. Better just kill them all.
Yeah, it happened before.
And I totally forgot what I was going to say. What were we just saying about the government?
You can't trust the government. They don't have your best interest at heart. I don't care who you vote for. They don't have your best interest at heart. Still, doesn't mean you shouldn't vote. You can vote. It's fine. Just keep in mind, temper your expectations because this kind of stuff is happening behind closed doors.
The government is not your friend.
Yeah.
They're no one's friend, and they suck. And I had a funny quip, and I totally forgot what it was. This will end it on a sad note then.
Yeah, it's pretty depressing. I paid a lot of money in taxes this year. Pretty upset about that too.
Same.
Yeah.
Anyway, where's that pen?
Oh, yeah. I need to find that pen.
I need to find that pen.
Where's that heart attack gun that the CIA made in the 70s? I need to find that, too.
Now, because if I do the heart attack gun and the pen just right, I can reach full orgasm.
No, they... Finally. It's been years. No, they made that heart attack gun in the 50s, actually. They could have used that on Castro. I don't know why they didn't think about that.
I was going to say, but I was like, no, there's no way. They could have done... Just...
Yeah, they just... Right, it could have done it. He would have been like...
Or maybe they tried that and it was in Get Smart where he's got the blow dart and he goes... he sucks it in by accident.
Maybe that's what happened. They were like, we can't risk it again. Anyway, comment below with all of your thoughts. We talked about COVID. We talked about the government. We talked about a lot of things. But we want to hear your thoughts. We want you guys to think independently of even what we say because who knows that we're right? I don't know. We're just two guys of the podcast who like to say things, and we say it with an awful lot of certainty, and sometimes people seem to buy it. I don't actually believe Bob Ross is a Zodiac killer.
No.
That will shock many of you.
But it is a fact, because people still comment on our TikTok. My uncle did own the land that the Denver airport was built on, and I plan on talking to him soon. I'm going up to Ohio to see them this year.
Let's get an interview.
I planned on interviewing him as best I could, but imagine Santa, fat Santa, but redneck Santa.
Ah.
That is him.
Alabama
Santa. Very drunk. He's a very sweet man, very nice, but he's very typical Ohio redneck man.
Gotcha.
So he knows how to spin a tale. So it could be an exaggeration, but it is a fact that he did own that land and the government did buy it from him.
And it is a fact that at least 10 years ago, the Denver airport was so freaking far away from everything. So stop commenting about it. It's not that far. I said this and I did this rant in a different podcast.
It doesn't feel far to you because you live close by and you're used to the drive.
Right. My airport is 30 minutes away, 25 if I go fast. Okay? It should not take longer than that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's what people are saying is that's how far it is from Denver now. Is about 30, 45 minutes drive.
From all the areas, the suburbs of Denver that have sprung up. But from Denver, it's 45 minutes if I remember right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's been a while.
I mean, it's
I
kind
haven't
of the
been out
same
there in a
if you're
couple
coming
years,
from downtown Dallas to DFW. It's kind of the same.
But you could go to Love Field in 15 minutes.
That is true. Yeah. But that is only a regional airport.
It is, but you can go almost everywhere now. It's not international. It is sort of international. You can go to Mexico.
Yeah.
You could also just drive to Mexico.
You could walk to Mexico.
You could walk to Mexico.
You could swim across the Pacific.
You could skateboard your way to Mexico.
You could fall off a cliff.
You can one-wheel your way all the way to the Panama Canal.
This is your brain on drugs.
That is our sponsor, One Wheel. Why? Because it's fun.
Wait, is that a real company?
Yeah, those things that are it's got one wheel.
Oh, that's what it's called?
It's called One Wheel.
We're sponsored by One Wheel. I found it in the parking lot.
No, that'd be a better sponsor than the ones we have, which is none.
So if your dad wants to sponsor us, how's it going?
Yeah. if you want to join our Patreon and sponsor us, we got extra content.
I will have a Patreon set up soon.
It may or may not be worth it.
And
I can't tell you. You have to join to find out.
And maybe we'll put some fun stuff, extra stuff on there.
Or can we do join on YouTube? Is that like already included?
You have to like reach a threshold to do that, I believe. Like TikTok.
Tell your friends to subscribe so we can join.
Hey, we're getting some traction. I appreciate the comments.
Anyway, thank you. We're going to see you guys next week with a whole new episode. Just don't forget anything that we've said today, although we know that within 30 minutes of listening to this podcast, you will have. So come back and listen to it again.
And if you're at this point in the podcast and haven't switched to another one, I'm talking to you, Jacob. On your way to work.
Jacob Sampson. Jacob Ernest Sampson.
Okay, that's a little specific.
Oh, are we not? Are you talking about a different Jacob?
No, that's the same Jacob.
No, I'm talking to Jacob Ernest Sampson.
Jacob Ernest Sampson. I'm earnestly talking to you, Jacob.
He lives in
Ernest.
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Is that a real place in Michigan?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, he lives in Kalamazoo. I know what street he's on. And I'm actually going to be heading there soon if he doesn't subscribe.
For death, doxed, and canceled.
We just doxed you, bro.
Doxed you.
You're going to have to move.
123 Ernest Way.
Well, it wouldn't be his middle name for the street. Maybe it is.
In earnest?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I was thinking it was like, like Elm Street or some crap.
Maybe it is. Find out next week on who are we doxing next?
Yeah, that'd be a fun segment. No, it wouldn't. We're not going to do that.
I know how to find the president. He lives in the White House.
Oh, well done.
Dox the president.
You doxed the friggin' president. His name is Joseph Biden.
Well, you know what? Biden. And I quit.
And we're out. Bye.